Hi, this is Jennifer Edmondson, and I'm a master's degree candidate at the University of San Diego. I will be presenting my Cyber Threat Intelligence Plan proposal for CSOL 580. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. I really appreciate it. First, what I'd like to do is give a high-level summary of why we are here. Most of us probably noticed that there seems to be a new cyber attack discussed in the news or social media at a regular cadence. We hear the latest Target breaches, the latest Equifax, the latest Marriott breach. There are financial ramifications, data is lost, personally identifiable information or PII is exposed, or a company's business or brand is damaged. Hackers are using new techniques and appear to be more advanced. Organizations, including ours, need to focus on how we protect our sensitive data in our systems. We need to ensure normal business operations. While we most likely cannot ever be fully immune to attacks, we can reduce the likelihood of a breach. Establishing a cyber threat intelligence plan, or a CTIP, is part of reducing that likelihood, and that's what I'd like to discuss with you today. I'd like to talk about our need for a CTIP, what it is, what's involved, and what it does for us. Let's take a look at today's agenda. We're going to talk about threat intelligence, cyber threat intelligence, what a CTIP plan is, the life cycle, tools, what do we need to protect, looking at our assets, threat actors. We're going to look at recent cyber attacks and the value of learning. We'll talk about the cyber kill chain. I'll make some risk reduction recommendations and then some final thoughts. Let's start with some key terminology. Before we get to a CTIP, we need to understand what cyber threat intelligence is. And before we can discuss that, we have to start at the very beginning with information. So information is data, and data is everywhere. You can garner it from many different means, but the problem with information is it has no context. So while there is a tremendous amount of information available to us, it's essentially meaningless without context. Intelligence is data with meaning because it's been analyzed and given some context. We use intelligence data to apply some context to real world problems, and we should always map that intelligence to some sort of goal or priority. Gartner has a great definition of threat intelligence, and it contains some key pieces of information that are going to help us build our CTIP. So now we know what intelligence is. Cyber intelligence, then, is intelligence in cyberspace. It's intelligence to be had and actioned upon as it relates to our assets and our information. This type of data is useful for numerous things, such as detecting threats and assets, incident response, blocking threats, vulnerability management, security awareness, prioritizing security controls, just to name a few. So cyber threat intelligence allows you to information share within your organization and externally as well. So a CTIP is a detailed threat profile that assesses the risks to our organization, that contains the context, mechanisms, indicators, implications, and actionable plan needed to respond to threats to protect our assets. Cyber threat intelligence must be part of a mindset, and it's also part of a life cycle. It isn't just one thing and you're finished. It evolves over time and gets more effective. And without a CTIP, we are not in a good position to manage threats to our assets. So this diagram is an excellent representation of the cyber threat intelligence lifecycle. The planning process is where we are now, creating a plan. Collection is the collecting of relevant data, and we're going to talk a bit about how we do that using cyber threat intelligence tools. We then process and use that information in usable formats. Next is analysis, and the analysis of information should be timely, accurate, and actionable. And finally, we disseminate that information to all levels when it's needed. So there are numerous tools in the market to gather threat intelligence, and they typically fall within a few categories such as threat actor coverage, hacktivism, and cybercrime. There are tools that scour the deep and dark web. My recommendation is that we address the operational gaps, which are these, right? A tool that has better sensors, We need a strengthened pipeline of actor behavior reports. We need to increase the talent we have on the bench. And those are just a few. We need a tool that has an operational focus, one that has the tactics, procedures, and techniques of threat actors, and one that offers endpoint detection. So one of my first recommendations as part of our CTIP is to purchase a cyber threat intelligence tool, one that meets these gaps and has the operational focus I believe that we need. And after a lot of analysis, CrowdStrike Falcon is that tool, I believe. And if you look at the TCO, it's pretty reasonable considering we would have financial ROI in about a year and a half. The other side of the coin is that we most certainly, in my opinion, will be able to prevent breaches immediately. So how can we have a CTIP if we don't know what we are protecting? We can't. We first have to identify what it is we're trying to protect. And for us, our people are our primary asset, our intellectual property, our design specifications and manufacturing processes are next. And finally, the infrastructure that runs our business. These are the assets we need to protect from threat actors. So let's talk about threat actors, starting with our primary adversary, ARM. They have a unique model of licensing their technology to OEMs, which we don't have. We build for OEMs. But regardless, they're a threat for a couple of reasons. They have some disruptive technology that's quite competitive to ours, and 2 of their products are actually expected to outperform us. So next, the ARM-China joint venture is a threat. So why is this important? The reason is because in China, IP is viewed as being something that should be shared. So part of doing business in China means that you must divulge sensitive information on how you do business. So China stands to benefit massively, as China can now transfer this IP in support of the Made in China 2025 initiative. So this is a directive that promotes 10 key industries to improve their innovation and manufacturing. And given the spectrum of these key 10 industries, one of which is ours, hacking and stealing is a very efficient way to get the information that they need. So threat actors with ties to the ministry's state of security have been stealing IP from companies with targeted technologies for Made in China 2025. If you look at the right side, you'll see the threat actors to pay attention to. So having a CTIP addresses the risks these threat actors pose along with remediations. So let's look at these threat actors in some more detail. So external threat actors, again, this is the nation state threat actor, typically via the advanced persistent threat. Hacktivists typically target websites to destroy our organization's reputation, steal incriminating or embarrassing information, and so on. Partners are external threat actor risk as well, and I'll show you a recent example of this in just a bit. The partner threat actor looks for network connectivity to our internal network via the trusted partnership for lateral movement or the theft of IP. So all of these ways, all of these can be remediated inside of a CTIP. So we have internal threats as well, and the insider threat is the most undercomprehended threat actor in cyber intelligence. So insiders can be hostile, such as disgruntled employees looking to cause damage to the network or systems, or freely giving away keys to the kingdom. Non-hostile insider threats are the careless ones, the ones who haphazardly click on everything. We have untrained insiders and insiders who side with nation states. So the insider threat actor uses many attack methods, all of which need to be part of our CTIP. So studying recent cyber attacks is an excellent learning tool to help build our CTIP. So Maersk is a large Danish shipping company, and they became one of the largest victims of NotPetya ransomware in 2017. So even though it was dubbed as ransomware, it's really a wiper, meaning it wipes out the victim's hard drive. What if we were to use a standard framework to break down this attack? Is there anything that we can learn from it? Can we use this framework as part of our CTIP? So yes, we can. So let's talk about the cyber kill chain next. So the cyber kill chain is a framework used to describe the steps used by cyber attackers. So if we can understand what happens in a cyber attack for each of these steps, we should be able to interdict and stop the attack at any point of the kill chain. So the more opportunities for interception, the better we can thwart the attacker's objective. So I believe that the cyber kill chain should be part of our CTIP as an effective process. So breaking down NotPetya using the cyber kill chain helps us understand why Maersk was so brutally damaged with this attack and where we could avoid similar issues. So, for example, in weaponization, delivery exploitation, and installation phases, an exploitation of a known vulnerability was used to deliver the malware payload when a user installed what they thought was a valid software update. So, NotPetya then harvested credentials to move across the network to gain a larger stronghold. So, these are specific remediation actions that we can take to reduce the possibility of suffering such an attack. So, all of these will also be part of the risk reduction plan inside of the CTIP. So let's quickly just look at two more attacks that can build up our CTIP further. So Bad Rabbit is a malware attack spread through a false Adobe Flash update that was downloaded by users. The malware continued to propagate with things such as credential theft and escalated privileges. Operation Cloudhopper is different. This is an APT. The threat actor here is nation state, and this threat actor used managed service providers to gain access to target clients to steal IP. So entry was via spear phishing, and the attacker spent a lot of time in the reconnaissance stage. So let's look at the risk reduction plan for the CTIP. So my recommendation is a cyber threat intelligence tool spend on CrowdStrike. That's first. This will help with our intelligence process collection. And I believe we should also adopt the cyber kill chain as our framework to review attacks. To deal with internal threat actors, we need an insider threat program, robust policies, and data loss protection tools to manage our IP. We should use UBA tools to track entity patterns, have mandatory security awareness training, and periodic phishing campaigns and training. So this is a tool, a framework, and looking at threat actors from an internal perspective. So how do we deal with external threat actors? We need to segment our network, have a robust incident response plan with playbooks. We should establish a third-party risk framework with our vendors, suppliers, and our contractors. We need a tested business continuity plan with validated backups, and having a policy of least privilege will ensure our users only have the access that they need to avoid those escalated privilege attacks. So one thing to note is internal threat actor recommendations benefit this category as well. So some final thoughts. So we've talked about needing a CTIP to protect our assets. We've learned about information, intelligence, and cyber threat intelligence. We know what a CTIP is and the purpose it serves. We know the assets we need to protect and the threat actors we face. Our plan, as I've outlined, must contain the tools, the CrowdStrike purchase, the remediation tactics for internal and external threats, and the processes and frameworks such as the cyber kill chain. Cyber threat intelligence is a state of mind and an ongoing process for our organization. I hope you agree with our need for a CTIP. Prevention is important, but detection is key.